Welcome back to the channel. So today I'm walking you through one of the toughest. I mean, I've done some tough flips before, but this flip was very educational. It was tough. This was down at 99 Roland Cemetery Road. It's actually on the South Carolina border in Robeson County, just outside of and adjacent to Lumberton. So on the surface, it looked like a straightforward manufactured home product, but as you'll see, things got complicated fast. So I discovered some foundation problems that were more intricate than I thought. I got my HVAC unit stolen. This deal taught me some hard lessons about flipping, especially in rural areas, and why you need to build in a bigger profit margin to survive this unexpected events that happen when flipping houses. So I bought this property directly from the seller at $65,000, which was their asking price. And once I saw that the house was over 2,000 square feet and it sat on an acre and a half, when I asked the seller how much they wanted, I thought that they were going to come at me at about 100 and some change. And when I asked for 65, I've had deals fall in my lap that are great deals before, and I learned even if I'm a little skeptical in the beginning, I never jump at an offer like that. I don't want to scare the seller away. But when they said $65,000, it sounded very low. So I said, all right, this house must be old types and messed up. But I said, all right, that does sound like a reasonable price. So on paper it looked promising. The after repaired value, or ARV, was projected at about $225,000. Now, the catch was all of those comps were in Lumberton, so they were technically more than a mile away from my subject property. There was really not a lot going on in Robeson. Now, when you're comping, if you've read my book or if you've read some of the other videos that I have on comping, if you're in a rural area, you can go out 1 mile up to 5 miles, just depending on the situation, especially in rural areas. But I thought that left enough room in there, since it was over a 2,000 square foot house and on an acre and a half of land. I thought it was worth at least $100 a square foot, which it turned out to be because I eventually sold it, at about that price. Um, After I walked the property, I decided that $60,000, which is what was going to be needed. So, relatively simple plan. Since the foundation had vinyl skirting on it, I know that underwriters at banks don't like vinyl skirting. You can still technically get a letter from an engineer saying that it meets the minimum FHA guidelines, but they prefer that brick skirting. Now, the brick skirting does not offer any structural support. It is merely cosmetic. However, I know how banks and underwriters can be complicated and blow up deals at the last minute, so I knew it was going to be at least $5,500 in that brick. I knew lots of subfloor work. Kitchen was really beat up. Um, Carpet, paint, punch list, and the thing, since it was actually 4 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, I knew this was going to be a little bit more expensive. So immediately we started to uncover problems with the foundation. When I sent my guy down there, he said that there were not proper tie down straps and there were no footings. Footings are basically what sit under piers, and the thing is, you can't observe them visually. What you have to do is get under there and bring one of those long screwdrivers and push the screwdriver down to see if you hit something hard. So that's basically how you determine whether or not there was a footing there. But he went down there and figured said there's no footings here. So uh, that meant he sent me a bill, and usually he's an old school guy where you just have to know him, so his prices are good. But he gave me an estimate of 18 grand. I flipped. I said, "You got $18,000." I'm used to paying him three, four, $5,000 for tie downs and moisture barriers, but this is what it was. I knew I was going to do the vinyl skirting. Replaced it with brick. So the original renovation budget was $60,000, but by the time I got finished, I was into it for 82 grand. I knew how to do a roof, I knew how to do an HVAC, I knew how to rip down both front and rear decks and demo an outbuilding. It just got real expensive. Um, so here's the reality of flipping houses in rural areas. They take longer to sell. So in this case, it sat on the market for 70 days. And that the holding costs are associated with letting a house sit on the market for 70 days. I mean, it's just terrible. So during that time, your holding costs pile up. I have interest accruing on a daily basis. I have the insurance, the utilities. The yard maintenance wasn't so bad. It's just having to wait for your investment to come back. When the house was sitting vacant, somebody stole my HVAC unit. I couldn't believe it. I actually did a deep discount listing with I think it was Premier Select Properties where I was the listing agent. I got a call from the buyer's agent. Oh, we're gonna show it. Oh, it's great. This and that. It looks good. Oh, is there supposed to be an HVAC unit out here? I get this call at like 4 o'clock on a Friday. I'm like, as soon as I heard that, I knew that was bad news. And I said, "Are you looking outside? You're in the back. You're gonna." He goes, "Yeah, it's an empty pad." I knew what that meant. I'm like, "Son of a bitch! You gotta be kidding me! Somebody stole my HVAC unit." So he sent me the video. I'm like, "Yep, somebody stole that unit. That was $8,200. I had to do the compressor, duct work, and the air handler and coils in the interior." So that sucked really bad. So after a long wait, we found a buyer, and I wound up selling the property for $214,000, right below the ARV that I had projected. But to get the deal done, a lot of these FHA buyers, they need you to pay closing costs. So I agreed to pay $5,000 of the buyer's closing costs. That, along with the extra renovation and holding expenses, cut deep into the margin. But overall, 82,000 in and 40 out. That's about $1.50 back for every dollar in repairs. Now, normally, if I spend $80,000 in renovation, I want to see $80,000 back at closing, or actually $160,000 back at closing. So I get my initial $82,000 in repairs back plus my profit. So this one was about $1.50. It cut into the margin. What started as a high profit deal ended up much tighter than expected. But there were some takeaways here. I mean, the numbers worked. The only thing is the rural flips take longer to sell, so you always have to account for larger holding costs. Right now, I really don't like these super rural flips. Some areas, me being from New York City, some of these areas like Spring Lake and some sections of Fayetteville, even Pitt County like Greenville, Winterville, I consider those rural areas. But this is a different type of rural. If I have no comps within a mile, I don't. That's not something I want to buy right now. I need my comps to be within 1 mile radius. Now, if I have one or two, and then I have two comps within the 1 mile, and I have to go maybe a mile and a half, that's something I might look at. But no more of this comps 5, 6, 7, 8 miles out. The other thing is foundations, especially with these mobile homes. I mean, it's common to have to do an HVAC and a roof, but you really need to pay close attention to what's going on in that crawl space. I get so frustrated when wholesalers will send me something and said, "Oh, the roof is X years per seller, the HVAC is X years per seller. I don't know what the crawl space looks like." And I'm like, well, you know, then I have to budget for all three of those things, and it's going to be expensive. So in this case, it was 18,000 in foundation work and $8,200 HVAC replacement. The roof was 6 grand as well. That wasn't part of the plan. So I learned you got to budget with margin for surprises. Usually I put in about 20% for an error margin, but I didn't think it was going to be $82,000. But without the extra cushion in the deal, this could have been a loss, and that would have been a problem.